Shermichael Singleton is in the mix with us today. Shermichael and I go way back. You know him from TV, CNN, conservative commentator. He's a gun guy, so he's a man after my own heart, and he's doing great work these days. We'll talk to him about all of the above. Let's start with this. You know, I occasionally get to see some fun clips of you on CNN. You and Scott Jennings, I would say standing for conservatism, but really just standing for sanity, I think, is a more apt description of it. But what's it like these days? I mean, when you see what the Democrats are trying to do, are they actually turning the ship around away from crazy town, or are they just still going right into it?
First of all, I got to say, Buck, shout out to Scott Jennings. I mean, I love Scott Jennings. We text all the time. I mean, I have a group text with a lot of my friends, and Scott comes up a lot. And some of my friends aren't even Republican, and they respect Scott. Like, guys respect Scott Jennings because they look at Scott Jennings as like, this is a guy's guy. And so I just want to say shout out to him because I have a lot of love and admiration for that guy. He's just a really, really good human being. And I really feel honored to sort of be on set with him. He's been at CNN for almost 10 years now. I was there for a year left, and now I'm back. And so it's just sort of good to have that space with someone where you have like-minded views about a lot of things. To answer your question, though, about Democrats, it's what Gavin Newsom said, the governor of California. It's what Bennett, the senator out of Colorado, just said recently, I think with Kristen Welker on MSNBC, that their party is toxic. That is a reality. And they have not learned anything. They haven't gathered their thoughts. They haven't paused and said, well, let us recollect and figure out, why did we lose Latino men and women? Why did we lose a subset of black men? Why did we lose younger men across the demographic board? And why did we lose even some young women, depending on what poll you want to look at? They haven't stopped to sort of figure any of that out. And while you've had some of these special elections, I think 5 of them, they may have 2 that I thought should have gone to a Republican. And then they're saying, well, see, that means we were right. Just last year was just a fluke. Well, I would say not necessarily, because even in those races, it didn't change the shape of power in the legislature in those 2 states, Pennsylvania being one. Then they want to bring up Florida to say, oh, we're going to be a big deal for us. Nonsense. 30 plus our district. Yeah, the candidate there may underperform the president, not because people are pissed. To be quite frank, if you look at the reporting at the Hill, Buck, you're down in Florida. This candidate, I'm going to be honest, Buck, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but in my opinion, he's kind of been a lazy guy. That's why he's going to slightly perform a little worse than President Trump. It has nothing to do with any other dynamics that the media and Democrats are trying to
say. If I could just be fair, I don't actually know Randy Fine. We had him on the show recently, but when you think you're in a plus 30, you know, I'm sure a lot of Democrats who are running in San Francisco and, you know, like the northern part of Virginia that's right next to D.C., they probably get a little lazy too, and so far as they're like, "Look, I'm going to win this thing, right?" So
that's true.
It's tough to get. No, I mean, I've seen that same reporting.
But the point I'm trying to make, though, Buck, is that the way they're trying to create the narrative is like, "Oh, this person is going to underperform because we're doing so well." And what I'm simply saying is that's not the case. And then even in Wisconsin, they're saying, "Oh, this is another big bellwether." There's a retiring Democratic state Supreme Court justice who's retiring. If Democrats win that seat, they're not replacing a Republican. This isn't some big upset. And the fact that we have spent in total both sides over $80 million in this race, if they do win this seat, which I think there's a good chance that they might, the fact that we forced them to spend so much money, Buck, suggests the strength on our side, not necessarily this rebound of Democrats. So I'm pointing out those examples and the other special elections to simply say that, in my opinion, they have not learned anything at all. Even on immigration, they haven't learned anything. You look at this issue with the Signal Gate nonsense. And look, I have said, and I think everybody said, look, we could have done this a little differently. Even Walls, he came out and said, I think a week ago, said, look, we could have done some things differently here. We acknowledge that the error. We're going to look at it, and we're going to figure out how we're going to do things better moving forward. I respect that acknowledgement. But anytime I, or even Scott Jennings, and I said this on CNN last Sunday on State of the Union with Dana Bash, I said, if you're going to make a moral argument, people want to keep looking backwards. Well, I have to look backwards. And I have to look backwards because I want to know what credibility you bring to this disposition that you're now forming. When you say, oh, this is hypocrisy, it's the worst thing that we've seen in America's history in terms of leaks, and I can't believe that they would talk like this with highly classified information on an app that anybody could download. Yet in 2021, when 13 American troops were murdered, dozens more severely wounded, no one asked for anyone to be fired, Buck. And even when one of the president's senior advisors wanted to offer his resignation, Joe Biden at this time, Sullivan, said, I don't want to accept your resignation. And so my point simply is, if you're going to frame an argument around something, have the moral standing to say, well, this is what we did. We held people to account 4 years ago. You guys should do the same. That wasn't the case. And so, again, another example to suggest to me as a strategist that they have anything. And I think whatever elections they may win here or there, that to me isn't necessarily about a resurgence of Democratic strength, and not at all.
You know, our sponsor here is Birch Gold, and purchasing gold continues to grow with so many Americans because, you see, we're going into some tough times with the stock market, and inflation continues to be stubborn, and there's some disruption ahead. I think President Trump is making necessary changes and fixing things structurally, but structural change can come with some disruption. Now's the time to prepare and to take a portion of your savings and put it into gold. Birch Gold Group is who I trust. And when there's volatility in the markets, knowing you've got physical gold on hand is just giving you peace of mind, knowing that you've got assets stored in something that is historically going to hold value. And you can also take an existing IRA or 401k and convert it with Birch Gold's help into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold for no money out of pocket. Get your free info kit on gold by texting my name, Buck, to the number 989898. No obligation, just useful information. Text Buck to 989898, and Birch Gold will be there for you. That's who you should go with. What do you think about tariffs? I was just talking about the economy a second ago and how that's affecting the markets a bit. You know, as you and I are sitting here talking, we're 24 hours away from the big Trump tariff day speech. Fortunately, not on April Fool's Day, right? I think it's good that they didn't have it on April Fool's. So probably not the best day for the tariff speech. So what do you think about this? Because this is one of those areas where even a lot of Republicans who do buy into the Trump agenda are like, look, I love Trump, but why this? I hear that from a lot of Republicans. I love Trump. I love what he's doing on all these things. You know, forget about I'm talking about Lincoln Project fake Republicans. I mean, actual Trump supporters, they get a little worried about this. What do you make of that?
I get worried, but for a different reason, because I think its assessment and critique of free trade is spot on. And if you go back to the early 90s, I mean, hell, I was maybe 4 years old then, so I don't remember this. I've had to go back and read. And Buck, you're only 36, 37, so hell, you were pretty young too.
I'm 43, Shermichael. This is just a lot of, a lot of self-care over many years. But thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Well, okay. Well, hey, bro, you got good genetics, my man.
Thank you.
but the point I was going to make is the promise of free trade was that having these free trade agreements with Canada, Mexico, NAFTA in particular, and there are others that we have agreed to over the time span, that these things would be a net benefit to the American consumer, the American people, generally speaking, because it would lower the cost for a whole set of goods. The problem with that is we have seen over time is that it completely destroyed a significant sector of the middle class. When you talk about the Rust Belt, for example, when you look at crisis there, you look at, and I'm going to bring this up because Democrats talk a lot about the implications of tariffs on communities of color. Well, Buck, there was a significant subset of Black middle class that rose out of the manufacturing sector, in part because a lot of Black men in particular, and some Black women, but certainly Black men, were able to get good paying jobs, 401ks, working in those manufacturing plants. When those businesses shipped overseas, you saw the complete erosion of billions of dollars of net worth for white and Black working class Americans across this country. And that's why you see many places, a lot of places in the Rust Belt that are now desolate. They're almost like desert towns now. You couldn't even imagine that they were once upon a time thriving towns. And so Donald Trump's critique that tariffs can be an equilibrium, if you will, to sort of reset and bring at least a quarter of those jobs back to the United States. He's right. And why many unions who are not traditionally Republican supporting groups are saying, wait a minute here, this would bring back potentially hundreds of thousands of jobs, which are necessary. This would increase pay for a lot of our union members. Where I think the president has to be careful is on that sort of pass-through tax will be to the consumer. So when you have tariffs, a manufacturer is essentially going to pass it on by increasing the price of goods. There are a couple of ways that I have been thinking about that I would advise the president, Buck, to consider. You can look at tax incentives or credits. So the government can essentially offer tax credits or deductions to companies that lower the prices for consumers if the cost to make goods are going to be more expensive. You could look at subsidies, for example. Let's talk about cars. That's been a big conversation. Well, cars are going to be more, up to $2,000, $3,000 more. You can look at subsidies to lower costs, similarly to what we've done to help reduce the price of electric vehicles, which we're still sort of doing. That's one potential way to not pass on costs to the consumer. And then you have potential pass-through pressure. So that essentially would be a tax benefit tied to passing savings on to consumers. An example like that would be rebates or price caps. So companies would essentially be incentivized to lower prices to qualify for these rebates. Again, those are comprehensive economic strategies that the president could implement to say, look, we understand that these tariffs for a little while will essentially increase the price of goods on the consumer. So let us look at tax incentives and credits for companies. Let us look at subsidies, lower costs. Let us look at pass-through, such as rebates and price caps, so that the consumer doesn't have to the bulk of that. And so I would advise President Trump, Buck, to look at some of those measures, because overall, I think he's 100% right to focus on saying, hey, we have to bring manufacturing back. It's in our national security interest. Too much of our shit is made in China. That is not good for us. And then two, it is good to rebuild the American middle class again. Not everybody's going to be wearing a suit and tie in C-suite. That has never been the bulk of how people in this country have thrived. So bring back good paying jobs where, again, a lot of men who work with their hands can get those trade skills for this new burgeoning economy. And so I give the president 100% support in what he's trying to do. I just think he has to incentivize through the 3 or 4 different plans that I just articulated, so that, again, the bulk of that hurt, that pain, isn't felt on working class people.
Let's talk about guns. You're a big gun guy.
Love guns.
He loves guns. He loves guns. I don't know if you saw. I got to train with former dev group operator DJ Shipley.
No, can I cuss on your podcast?
No, but we'll bleep that out.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Man. No freaking right. Way. My bad.
No, it's okay. We'll bleep it. But that's a great reaction. Yeah, no, I got to train with DJ. It was do you know DJ? DJ's amazing.
Of course I know. You kidding me? Dude, of course, dude. That's why I said no effing way. That's crazy.
Yeah, you do. I know a guy. I could put you in. You gotta. Because, you've got your project going now. I mean, you guys should, GBRS group, you should definitely do something with your new project with them. Yeah, so he was amazing. It was, honestly, I've trained with a lot of different operators from the past, and including when I was in the CIA, we were trained by operators to be outgoing CIA officers, right? So they would bring in, they'd bring in MARSOC guys, SEALs, Delta, whomever, and they would run the basics of training for us, right? So it was a great foundation for us.
Yeah.
They could obviously take you all the way up to far more advanced stuff, but it's like learning how to drive from an F1 driver. Like that was kind of how it was in the CIA. I'm like, I was like, you're SEAL Team 6 and you're like teaching me how to, or, they were SEAL Team 6. And the answer was, some of them were training me how to do stuff. But anyway, DJ Shipley's amazing. So anybody who wants to go train, I would
shout out
say
to DJ.
Yeah. I would say go find a way to get yourself into a GBRS class. They are doing some classes now for the general public, and I highly recommend it. Anyway, tell me about what you're doing now, and what you're up to now in that space, because I think you're doing some interesting stuff.
Yeah, before I get into that, I really have to ask, and I've never asked you this. In terms of that direct training, what for you did you enjoy most? For me, I've had the opportunity to train with a lot of SOCOM guys, doing a lot of CQB. I abso-freaking-lutely love CQB, whether it's with the team or whether it's by myself, just learning how to properly pie around corners, learning how to properly engage, learning how to expect the unexpected. I absolutely love that stuff. It gets the heart flowing, the adrenaline pumping. It is hard as hell. But I love it. But what for you? Like, what did you love about that training? I'm just
Oh,
curious.
it will just you're getting the best instruction imaginable in honestly a lot of the fundamentals, which I think people sometimes people overlook. I mean, DJ can sit there he'll sit there and he'll talk to you about grip in the middle of a training session. He'll talk to you about grip for like 10 minutes, just talking about different. The level of knowledge, like I've been around people who are at the top of their game in different things. You're around somebody who's a truly top of their, and it's not all theoretical. This is a guy who's done many combat tours and has been in the most kind of real deal close quarters battle imaginable, right? I mean, he's a SEAL Team 6 operator at the peak of the global war on terror. I know when I was in the CIA what these guys were doing. So, I mean, it's like, how deep do you want to go on this subject? He can go that deep. And, so for me, it was really just trying to lock down more fundamentals because, look, here's the reality. This is a whole other conversation, but you and I both know most people, and these are like a lot of our 2A people that we love because they believe in the right to bear arms. They're doing their part. But for most people, going to the range, and I'm not casting any aspersions because I've seen this and I've been in this situation too. You go, you bring your gun. There's 10 people in a line. Maybe there's plexiglass next to you or whatever, and you're indoors. And you take your gun out and you pop off some rounds and you're focused in on, what is my grouping, or can I do what Mel Gibson did in Lethal Weapon and make a smiley face on this target, or whatever, right? And with one hand, by the way. I mean, the whole thing was like, Lethal. Remember when he was doing this spinning around on the ground and shooting, the spinning around on the floor shooting the gun, like the whole thing's so absurd. But I love Mel Gibson. I love Lethal Weapon movies. But the thing is, when you go to the range, you do that is not training you to do anything actually with your gun in any scenario whatsoever. I would say that's basic FAM that you could really almost get in a classroom without doing live fire, right? I mean, you're really not getting very much out of that experience. You're not coming out of the draw. You're not learning to, you're not practicing at speed. You're not doing bill drills. You're not doing tactical reloads. Right? I mean, you and I sit here. So when you start to add in these different pieces, I mean, for me, I love pistol shooting. I mean, look, I've got my AR here and I got some fun stuff all, kitted up with it and whatever, but I like pistol shooting, and I like pistol shooting based on or rather focusing on the fundamentals and what are the situations in which I would actually have to use a firearm to defend myself. God forbid I ever do. But I want to be at a place where I know that if I had to, I'm trained. And that's kind of that's my version of it. Yeah, that's my focus.
I love that, bro. You want it to be reflexive. And again, I agree with you. Look, I say go to the range for the normal person to get used to the mechanical mechanism and operation of your firearm. If it's on your nightstand or if you're carrying it on
that's
your
a step
person.
one for sure. You got to like load it, fire it, see what that's like. But that's step one. But
to your point though, Buck, you have to put yourself in scenarios, and that's why you have a lot of defensive pistol courses. You got to put yourself in a scenario to know how in the hell would I react if I'm stressed through the roof, if I'm not thinking right, if there's a lot going on around me. I got to make sure I don't hit an innocent person if you're being accosted. I mean, there's just so many things that goes into training. I highly recommend it. And this, gets into your question. You asked, what I'm working on right now. So I just launched this new network called We the Free. Obviously, big Second Amendment guy, love freedom of speech, tied to my right to keep arms. It's a firearm streaming platform, and we're looking at a couple different things. So we have our gun training, we have our firearms sort of interactive entertainment shows, we have action-oriented reality shows, and then we also have conservative podcast and political commentary. Then we have a weekly gun news show that's strictly news about fire only. And so I would highly recommend your audience to check us out, WTF.TV. That's We the Free. And we're excited about this, Buck, because what I realized was, one, there isn't really a singular place to go if you're a gun person to get highly made, curated content by gun people for gun people. YouTube is constantly demonetizing guys. We have a channel on YouTube, and we don't even do a lot of content on there anymore because we don't make any money on it. And a lot of the big channels, they struggle to make money on YouTube. Instagram, even though Zuckerberg has said that they're going to become friendlier, we haven't really seen that change. And I got to be honest, Buck, as much as I love the heck out of Elon Musk for what he's doing and his ingenuity, X on occasion, and you even saw a couple manufacturers, have some complaints about this a couple months ago. They still have some provisions that they need to sort of perfect as it pertains to gun content and the monetization of gun content on X. So nevertheless, I say all that to say we decided, why not build something for gun people and for conservatives, people who care about the Second Amendment, who also care about the First Amendment, with a focus really on younger to middle-aged men, because that is what we think will be our biggest demographic.
When can I come and shoot with the WTF.TV folks? Shoot guns while we shoot video. Like, when can we do this? You got to tell me.
Dude, we'd love to film something with you whenever the hell you want.
All righty, we got to set this up.
That happen.
This will be fun. All right, I got a couple of quick fire questions because we're at time, but a couple quick fire questions. You only get one pistol for the rest of your life for the range, and one pistol for the rest of your life. Well, one pistol for the zombie apocalypse. Like, this is the pistol that you're going to have to use to defend yourself in every situation, every environment, whatever. What are your go-tos right now?
I am going to go with the Sand Viper by Terran. Love Terran. He's a good friend. I have the Sand Viper. I was going to go with maybe the Staccato XL because I really, really love the Staccato XL. It's a beautiful pistol. But the Sand Viper, it just runs like a fine-tuned machine.
So that's your range gun.
Everything.
Sand Viper Terran range gun. What is your zombie apocalypse handgun? Like, this is the one that you...
I'm absolutely bringing the Staccato XL. Absolutely. You're talking about with a 4.5 inch barrel length. So my great line of sight, huge, oversized mag well, great.
This is funny because
5-inch trigger grip, I believe. So yeah.
It sounds like we're like sponsored by Staccato. Maybe you are. I'm not. I'd love to be. I love Staccato because I was going to say, for me, the range gun, no question, my Staccato C2. I love that gun. I shoot that gun lights out. It's so fun. It's just like perfect. And the problem is when I shoot that and then people are like, hey, do you want to try my? I'm like, ew, no, that peasant tool. I don't think so. But because I know people call it a rich man's gun. I'm like, look, it's expensive. It's a great gun.
It is.
I love it. But for my zombie apocalypse, man, and I know people make fun of me, and it's almost like telling somebody I would have like a snub nose revolver, like a 38, old school, like a detective in the 80s. I'd go Glock 19, man. I just feel like I can take that thing apart and put it together in the dark. I know it'll always work. I know what it feels like in my hands. To me, it's like it's the equivalent of having like a baseball bat with some nails through it. Like, it's gonna get the job done. You swing that thing, it's gonna get the job done.
Yeah.
So
I mean, look, Buck, I can't disagree, and I gotta add, you can always make some adjustments and updates to your Glock. You can update the trigger. You could put a different spring in. You could put in different barrels. You can put an SRO or whatever the hell a dot you want to put. You can put a mag well on it also. You can do some stippling so that the grip is more textured in your hand, which is something I personally prefer. So I actually wouldn't be opposed to a Glock.
There we go.
They make good guns.
Yeah. It's like, I remember Tim Kennedy told my brother's like, yeah, I got a Colt 1911. He's like, did you get that with your walker? We were like, oh,
dang.
Oh, snap.
Talk about shots fired.
Good
man.
heavens, shots fired. Like, we were like laughing at it. When you laugh and it hurts at the same time? I was like, damn, Colt 1911 shot down. That was very funny from Tim Kennedy. Anyway, all right, man. Hey, Shermichael, guys, go look for him on CNN. Obviously, follow him on social. But go to WTF.TV, and maybe you'll see Buck and Shermichael doing like the Keanu Reeves thing out at the Terran Tactical Range at some point. You know what I mean?
We are definitely going to make that
drills.
happen.
Dude, let's do some 2-gun drills. I'll text you. It'll be fun. Great to see you, my friend. We'll talk soon, okay?
Good to see you, Buck. Thanks for having me, man.